This is Sue Vicious, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.
All right. And we're back here at the station of decapitation without your head. I'm still Nasty Neil. Terrible Troy will be back. He's roaming around somewhere. I think I might hear him now.
I was lurking.
All right. And right now we're joined by director Rick Chandler and Alex Hauck, and I believe we'll have Jenny French on a little bit. And their new movies, I just saw the screening of the premiere. I had a very good time. Parts Unknown.
Welcome to
insane horror wrestling horror movie. It's kind of all kinds of things going on in there. Where did all this come from, Rick? And there's a lot of there's wrestling, there's horror, it's kind of like post-apocalyptic stuff going on. There's a demon. Where did all this come from, Rick?
What's all that noise?
I think Jenny might have her. I think Jenny just called in. I assume.
Hello.
And hello. And I think she might have had the show on in the background, but I think it's all.
I just turned it on. It was starting to sound like a Skype with one of those like live chats with like 18 people.
Right.
I thought it was just voices in my head.
Yeah. It's a very professional show.
But yeah, I guess to answer your question, I've been a big wrestling fan, as you know, for a long time, and I always wanted to make a wrestling movie, but making like a wrestling movie about the business is something that's like next to impossible on my budget. So I've been making sleazy horror movies. So I said, well, what if I somehow combine these two things? And that was the goal. All the other stuff is just, the icing on the cake. It wouldn't be one of my movies without some kind of like supernatural force that, was commanding people to kill for them.
Right. So do you imagine this is where like the Ultimate Warrior's from and everyone who hails from Parts Unknown?
Yeah, I think that was like a big part of like the motivation behind this. And I'm not sure if every horror fan or every casual wrestling fan tuning into Parts Unknown could really grasp that. But I said to myself, imagine a place where like the Ultimate Warrior and the Boogeyman and the Dungeon of Doom. Imagine if like it was real and it was like going on, and you have all these weirdos mixed in with steroids and substance abuse, and now you have the world of Parts Unknown. So I think that was one of the big reasons why I called it that.
You mentioned about if like a horror fans or like some wrestling fans. So when you're writing a horror movie, with wrestling involved and use a lot of like terminology, do you think? Do you wonder like is everyone going to understand what heel and getting over and these different terms mean?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing with this movie. It had such a small like audience to it. If people want to be too critical of certain things, they may just like overlook it and not understand it. And you're right, because of like using all the industry terms and stuff. Like I feel like a real wrestling fan may appreciate that. Somebody else may just be like, what the fuck are they talking about? What's a heel? But I had to put it in there because I felt like, you gotta like, that's how they would talk. And that's how like anybody who's in the wrestling business would talk. So I'm like, I don't want to make it sound all like phony and fake. And, and there's plenty of fake stuff in the movie, but certainly you don't want the business side of it to seem real,
Right. And you can't have like so much exposition. Someone just explaining, you look like a heel, or you act like a heel, the bad guy or the villain. You know what I mean?
It would sound
it's better just
really
to have
dumb.
talk. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Jenny's also here, and she's the wardrobe designer. So, what like common theme were you going for the different wardrobes, costumes?
Well, we definitely wanted separation of the characters, so there was definitely different themes within each character. But the overall theme, I think, was really like low fashion, like a flamboyant apocalypse kind of look, where it's like they still have the over-the-topness of wrestling, and we're also kind of keeping it a little bit timeless too, but still like a little bit future. But nobody's owning anything that's brand new, really. So you see things in the past. Besides inspirations, I was looking at Spun, the movie with Brittany Murphy. That kind of just low brow, like trash fashion. We're definitely exchanging a lot of pictures of wrestlers too. I know for Sarah, the Kitty Von Strasser character, her entrance was very Ric Flair inspired. So we had the big coat that was kind of like the robe. And I think even in acting it, she said it was a big Ric Flair inspiration too. So, and then, of course, just going by what was in the script and the lighting and location, the overall theme of the movie was,
Yeah. So are you a wrestling fan too?
I always appreciated it.
Yeah, either of you, Jen or Alex. Are you both wrestling fans?
I
have to admit that. Go ahead, Jenny.
I always watched it for the costumes. That was it. I didn't really pay attention very much, so that paid off. But
yeah. So how about you, Alex? Were you a wrestling fan before the movie?
I have to admit that I became fan of wrestling a little later on. When I was younger, I never really got into it, but I would say in the last 10 years, I started getting into it because I started meeting people who loved wrestling, and they turned me on to it, and I've been kind of following it for the last 10 years.
Okay. So did you have any inspirations for? Yeah, did you have any inspirations for the manager role, Alex or Rick, writing the character for him?
I think. I'll say this first, and I'll let Alex talk. But yeah, it was. We thought of like a cross between Paul Bearer and Harvey Whipplestein. I think is what we were going for. Like just kind of like he's dark, but like not really like like supernatural dark. Just kind of like a sleazeball. Just kind of a nerd, but like like a sleazy nerd. And I'll let Alex take it from there. I don't know if he did what he looked at, in addition to that.
Well, I mean, like Rick said, I looked at Paul Bearer and Whipplestein, and he took a lot of inspiration from that. But then, with the fact that my character has gotten so many chairs to the head, so his brain's a bit scrambled. I kind of thought, okay, you have that type of character. I mean, what would happen when, he starts kind of blending in his mind what is fake and what is real? So, I mean, there's a part where, Alexandra Coppola's character is, saying how, she looks at wrestling as scripted, and my character blows up about it's real, it's goddamn real, because as far as my character is concerned, everything in the wrestling world is reality, and like the whole thing about whether wrestling is fake or real isn't a thing for him, because as far as he's concerned, everything they do, the punches, the hits, and all that's all real, and anyone who even tries to say, oh, it's scripted or it's not real, is kind of like, slapping him in the face. So I kind of use that as the basis for my character of kind of not 100% sure exactly which reality he's in at any given time.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Rick, how did you go about casting the movie?
Usually it's just, I don't know if that's like a super interesting story on my part. I just kind of like, I wrote the script with a couple people in mind. And the rest I just held auditions. But one of the big things that I wanted was to add like realism of the wrestling business. So it was like uniquely a wrestling horror movie. So I talked to Will Dikoff, who played Herman, and Sarah Michelle, who played Kitty, and Lizzie Havoc, who we actually did meet and later audition her because we did not know her beforehand. But like, you know, they all wrestled, and you know, we wanted, like, they were professional wrestlers, so like we wanted to like bring them into it, so like they understood all those industry terms and like the subtleties of putting somebody over, and you know, like kind of like, you know, to get the business side of things right. I'm not sure if a regular actor would have fully grasped that, you know, and that played into the plot of how, like, you know, they were sacrificing themselves for what they believed was entertainment. And then, you know, that, you know, led to the psychosis of many of them, including, you know, Alex Hauck's character with the chair shots to the head. You know, he thought everything was real and all that. You know, I think that, you know, that becomes like a common theme. So I think like a big part of our casting was to bring in people that like understood that concept, and especially like working in front of like 10 people, you know, in an indie event. Like I wanted people that really like could feel that, you know.
Mm-hmm. So how did you think the screening went the other night, the premiere?
How did I do what?
What did you think of the premiere the other night? Well, how did that go for you? What did it feel like for you?
I mean, it felt pretty good. I don't know what to say. I mean, I was pretty happy with it overall. It's always tough to do the 2 back-to-back screenings. I mean, this movie was almost 2 hours, so like putting it back-to-back was like a little crazy. But you know, besides from that, you know, I was pretty happy with things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was received really well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was an intensity of it too, and people like it was cool to see people's reaction to it, and that it was my first time seeing it. I think it was all of our first time seeing it too. So I think the cast and the crew were just like really happy that we pulled it off. That like what we thought was going to happen actually it actually happened. You know,
right,
you spend so much time thinking about these things, and like you see it in your head, and it was exceeded what I saw in my head, and I think a lot of people felt the same way. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, definitely. It was like 6 months pre-production, right? And then about 3 months of filming, and then about 6 months, I don't know, and then until June. So it was about like a year and a half process, right? Am I right, Rick?
Yeah, probably more like 2. I think we had
about 2 years.
Almost like 10, 11 months of pre-pro, and then shooting. We only shot for 3 months, but then I certainly remember editing it for about 9 months, if not more. And then I guess I was the only one who saw it. I've seen it so much. It's engraved in my brain, but yeah, it's always interesting to see people's reactions, but you know, to see people react at the same time is cool. And you know, to see like everybody, to hear a couple people in the audience be like, oh, holy shit. You know, it's nice to hear that, because like I've become so desensitized to it at this point, you know?
Yeah, not to be honest, I did see, you going, sorry.
We said the same thing, that like you work on it for so long, it's like you work on it in such a detailed fashion that you forget the big picture of the movie, and it's almost like you completely forgot. You know what I mean? Like you forget about the big picture because you're working on it scene by scene, and then detail of that scene by scene. So then when it all came together, it was kind of like reading the script for the first time again. You know, it was really cool.
I got a caller on the line. Paul is on the line.
Hey, how'd you know it was me?
I have your number saved.
He's psychic.
Fuck. I was gonna pretend to be someone else, like last time.
Oh man, I just totally ruined it.
That's all right. But you wouldn't know. So
we have someone on the line. I don't know who it is.
Is this Rick Chandler?
Caller, who are you?
Who is this?
Chandler, a movie idea. I was going to make a movie about private parts and not knowing what they were for. And then he made parts unknown. His idea.
Oh, man. I can't hear him. It's breaking up.
Hey,
You have to speak up, caller.
I can't. It's like breaking up. I
Rick,
can't hear what
Rick
he's saying.
Chandler's gay.
It says Rick Chandler's gay. Is there any truth
So
to
what?
this?
Yeah.
I'm in love with him.
Doesn't affect the movie. Oh, all right. Well, he's in love with you.
It has no effect on me.
Sorry, I'm watching a Build-A-Buff film.
So you were there at the screening, Paul. Did you have a good time? What did you think of the movie? And you were in the movie too.
Let me pause this Build-A-Buff movie.
All right.
Paul's dick was in the movie, but I don't know if he was.
It's a very unprofessional caller.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about over there. He sounds like he might be on drugs,
He's all hopped up on something.
on ADD medication.
I'm overdosing on Dayquil.
He's just very nervous to talk to.
No, but I liked the movie a lot. The screening was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it was a fun experience. Being in one of Rick Chandler's films. I think was that my first time in one of your movies?
In it or seeing it?
Being in it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rick, when did you and Paul meet? Like, what's your background together?
I did I acted for Ungovernable Films on the Ungovernable Force, and then later Gay Jesus. So.
Did we know each other before the Ungovernable Force?
I don't think so. I think it was. Yeah, I think that was it. That was the beginning, I believe.
Oh, but you know what? I had already seen Scrooge in the Hood.
Okay, all right. So
I felt like I
I've
knew
seen
you.
that movie, but I don't think we met though.
Yeah, no. You know who turned me on to that was Alan Alexander.
I totally believe that.
Yeah, so I think that's how we met.
All right. What did you think of seeing yourself in the movie?
It was cool. Yeah, I liked it. I don't know. I love and hate seeing myself on screen. And this was no different. I thought it came out pretty good.
Now, are you a wrestling fan, Paul?
No, not really. I mean, all right. Let me clarify. I love and appreciate wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, a lot of my friends were way into wrestling, so a lot of times I'd go and I'd watch WrestleMania with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was never really into it on my own. But I have been kind of turned on to it by Mike McCarthy, going to see him wrestle. So so I can.
It was asking. Yeah. Was asking was not know. I think you wouldn't be a wrestling fan where you'd know like a lot of the terminology and stuff. So when you're watching the movie, did that have any effect on you? Was it hard to understand? Like if they're saying different terms that you might not know from wrestling, or did you totally get what's going on?
I mean, I may have missed some stuff that I'm not aware of, but for the most part, I felt like I wasn't handicapped by not knowing a lot of terminology. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I followed the film regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that even though it's a wrestling film, I think it's for anyone that likes watching independent horror movies. You know what I mean? Or exploitation films.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I had to say, I didn't even know who the voice of the holiness was until the credits came up.
Yeah. Yeah, he was acting. Jake the Snake Roberts was he was like legit acting. He was like, I thought he was just gonna talk, but he didn't. He had a character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, how did Jake get involved in the movie?
I was looking for a wrestler, like a notable wrestler that, just has been away from WWE for a while that wanted to do a cameo. And he was always one of my favorites when I was growing up. He played such a dark character, in and out of the ring in real life, everywhere. I just felt like he was just a fit.
Mhm.
He was a fit for the movie. And the voiceover was the easiest thing to do with him, instead of like trying to have him on set, which would have been a lot harder. So, it felt like a fit.
Yeah, and he's a great voice, and for wrestling promos, a great promo where he's not, screaming and stuff like, maybe like a lot of the wrestlers of that era.
Right.
Rick, I have a question.
Yes.
What happened to Lizzie Havoc's character and her cancer diagnosis?
Her cancer diagnosis?
Yeah.
I think it was fake, and she was luring people she was luring people to have sex with her so the Herman character could come and kidnap them, which is what happened to Paul in the movie. And then, they can torture them and do the other things that they want to do to them, which is part of the plot. I don't think there was a cancer diagnosis. I think she just made that up.
Oh, okay, all right. Because when I remember in the script, she mentioned something about cancer, but in the film, that she made no mention of why she had an oxygen tank. So I wasn't sure if you had changed that or something like, you know what I mean?
That's because she got her nipple cut off, Paul, so she lost a lot of blood.
When I get my nipples cut off, I have to go on oxygen too.
Yeah. Common knowledge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's actually kind of what I figured. I forgot to ask you.
Maybe she got a punctured lung or something from Kitty in the ring. Because she got her ass kicked, obviously.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So what was that like to film, cutting off a nipple?
It was actually one of the harder effects to pull off because they had to life cast, her tits, and then we had to get them on a board, and still make them look like a person, which, you're cutting off a nipple, you got to get so close to it, it starts to look fake, and you got to have a little slit in there so it could actually, because silicone is so hard. That was probably one of the harder effects. I think at one point we had trouble just slicing it off with the branch cutters, so Sarah just improvised and just started stabbing the shit out of it, which I think looked cool because it was terrible to watch. So, I think that's what we were going for. Anytime you're working with silicone, it's so expensive and unpredictable. Hopefully it looked, obviously it probably didn't look like a Hollywood effect, but certainly, hopefully it was, came out painful.
Yeah. No, who crafted the razor dildo? Strap on.
My father actually crafted the razor blade dildo. He was the property master on this, and I had to buy a fucking hot pink dildo and a bunch of razor blades, bring it to my parents' house, and I said, "Hey, prop guy, you gotta make this razor blade dildo." And he's like, "What the fuck?" He's like, and he had to hide it. He's like, "I don't want your mother to see this thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, that might be weird."
Yeah, it's better than if he was like, "Oh, I've done this a million times, no problem."
Yeah, that would be.
Having not seen this movie, just from this conversation, now I definitely want to see this movie.
Well, that's good to hear. If a razor blade dildo can't sell a movie, nothing can.
That's right.
You still have the razor
niche audience that big into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fetish in Japan.
Rick.
Paul's asking a question.
Yes?
Rick, did Rick Sr. use the dildo at all?
Not that I know of. I can't absolutely guarantee what he does in his spare time. Something tells me no. I'm best not knowing that. Especially if it had razor blades. I don't want to know how that works out.
So actually filming the rape scene. Well, what's the set like when you're filming that? Is everyone laughing, or is it?
No, that was one of the most awful things I've ever obviously put in my movies. It's awful to film. It's the scene. I told people that this movie was fucked up, and I warned them, and they were like, "Whatever." I watched Witch Hunt. I said, "Okay, fine." So now they're like, "Well, how could it be worse than that?" I said, "It is. Just believe me." So then people saw that, and then they were like, "Oh no!" So this is what it was pretty bad. Every girl actually left, except for one PA. They all they asked me for permission to not be there. I was like, "Fine, that's fine." So they left, and it was so hot. It was so awkward. I remember being in the basement filled with all the kid toys, and it had to be one of the most awkward things of all time. Luckily, Sarah and Lizzie were just, they're very wild and crazy, actors that are, they like horror and stuff. And thank Christ, because there was I feel like if the actors weren't comfortable with that, I have no clue. And I remember people didn't even really want to shoot it. People were intimidated to even get the close-ups and stuff. I know it is unsettling. It's probably the most unsettling scene in any of my movies. Even to edit it, I was like, Jesus.
And it does go on for a while.
It is, yeah. It's a little long. I think what I was trying to do, and this is fucked up, but I'll just tell you, I think I was actually, Kitty touches herself and she's trying to make herself come, and I was like, okay, this is how long it would take a woman to come in this situation. And I tried to time it, and I left it in there in real time, and now, some people are like, man, you should have cut that shorter. I didn't want to see it that long. And I'm like, well, Kitty had the orgasm. And they're like, dude, you're sick fuck. And I'm like, well, now the reviewers can't say that they can't tell me I'm wrong about how quick it takes somebody to come. So that's, I think that was the logic anyway. Maybe I'm wrong on that one.
Which I believe many horror movie reviewers are experts on that.
They're experts on most things, yeah, just about everything, really.
How about watching it with an audience? Because I did see some people leave. I have to be honest. When that scene started.
Yes, they did. We had a scene in Witch Hunt that was I was involved in, where I killed someone by stabbing them in the vagina, and a couple people left. And I said, well, this is the second time and only the second time that people walked out of one of my movies. And, I'm a little bit more used to it now than maybe a year ago, where I was like, oh shit. Now I'm just like, hey, I knew it was coming. It's definitely awkward. I was glad I was sitting in the back, so I didn't get any angry faces during that scene. But I kind of did afterwards. Some people looked at me like, what the fuck? And I'm like, well, it is a pink razor blade dildo, and it. You watch Game of Thrones, and you say how great Game of Thrones is, right?
Right.
Well, Game of Thrones is graphic for me. It's graphic for me, so I'm like, this isn't any worse than that. But maybe they just weren't prepared for it, which is understandable. But
How about Jenny for yourself? Had you seen that scene before?
No, I didn't see any of it before. And yeah, I was with the crew that left. I think it kind of made it easier for most of the girls to leave anyways, for it to be shot. But
yeah.
So
I seeing it for the first time in the theater.
Yeah, somebody asked after the screening, it's like, oh, do you think in this PC world we live in, are you going to have people saying that this is misogynist or whatever. And I like what Lizzie said was that, this was our choice and we did it and no one was coerced and everything. And it does bother me a little bit that you see, anytime you see women do something graphic that is always going to exist in horror, and that's the point, right? People assume they were coerced, or people assume that they're being taken advantage of. And to me, that's a little more offensive than it's just happening. I like to see the realism and the roles of the two women and the scenes, the ballsiness of the scenes, I feel like are refreshing to see in movies with female characters. So I wasn't that bothered by it. The length of it was a little surprising, and the way it was done was a little surprising. I thought it was going to be a bit more I guess I thought it was going to be quicker. I guess that was the only thing I thought was going to be different, but I wasn't horribly offended by it. My dad didn't walk out during that, so I thought that was really cool. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. No, there's definitely worse stuff out there, and yeah.
How about your dad, Rick? Because he's the guy who crafted the dildo. When he got to see his piece up there at work, what did he say anything to you when he was watching the movie?
Yeah, it's funny because he was all for the movie. He was all for the blood and guts when we were shooting. I mean, he had no issue with it. But then once he visually saw it, I remember the next day he was like, "Did it have to be that long of a scene?" And I'm like, "But Kitty had to come though." And he's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to make it look real, man. I'm trying to make it look." I'm like,
in love stories, in love stories, they have these sex scenes you wait the whole movie to see, and it lasts half a minute. And you're like, what the hell? So yeah, there should be more of that.
In real time, because it is a little long. Maybe I'm covering up for my plotting scene that disturbed people, but. My father was disturbed once he saw the results of it. It is pretty disturbing, though. I can't help that.
Mm-hmm. Alex, what did you think of seeing the movie on the screen with an audience?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, it's like any actor or anyone who has ever done a film. You're doing the scenes, and you have in your mind how it's going to look, and then when it's finally put on the screen, a lot of times, things that you never even thought about, kind of takes on a whole new meaning when you see how it's cut and put together. And I have to say I was very impressed, and I really liked how everything was put together. And, I mean, there were a few scenes that I was wondering how it was going to look, like the scene with me and Alexander Coppola where she spits blood in my face.
Mm-hmm.
That I mean, first of all, when we were doing that scene, I mean, in the script it just said that she spits blood in my face. I didn't know until we shot there that it was going to be an entire extinguisher of blood shot in my face. So I mean, seeing that on the screen, I mean, I was really happy with how it came out.
Mm-hmm. What did you say, Jenny?
That's another shot that's held longer than you expect it to be.
I think it was like a minute. It was like a minute or something. And I just left it all in there. I'm like, fuck it. Like, I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna leave it in there.
You're a trooper, Hawk. You took that right in the face and mouth and everything.
Well, what I have to say is that, I mean, when I'm getting hit with the blood, I mean, the thing that I was thinking of was, okay, I'm going to fall back. Then I remember, well, I have to stay in the frame, so I have to stay there and just keep on having this wave of blood keep on hitting me in the face, and trying to say, okay, don't put my hand up, don't try to block it. We want to get this, all on camera.
Which is kind of what your character would do, right? Because he's so slow. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
He's like just taking it.
Yeah, I think think that adds to the comedy of that scene, staying on it for longer than what you expected, as opposed to the other scene, which makes it maybe more horrific. This one, I think it made it more comedic.
Yeah,
is that
did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that Alex's hat in the movie?
No.
No, it's not mine.
Oh, wait, what about the hat? Oh, no.
It's nobody.
I was gonna first. Oh, all right.
We did choose it. I don't know if Jenny wants to take this question, but we did choose it for a reason. Jenny?
Yeah, I mean, well, we were talking about, we were doing all the hats, and Gary had all these tacky hats. And I was looking for a tacky hat for Harvey, like something a little bit different. And we were like brainstorming about it. Like, man, what's like the lamest, like, most untrustworthy hat you could wear? Like the Make America Great Again hat, of course. And it just seemed to fit. It's like, it's a relic of the past, because Parts Unknown is set in the future, right? The relic of the past. I think people see it. Yeah, people see it and they think like it's the beginning of an end. You know, it's like it's a relic of things going downhill, and they're in their suicidal plunge. And I think it's like it ties into the overarching themes of the movie. And yeah, I mean, people could definitely say that and be like, you know, those Harvey types who've been hit in the head too many times and don't know the difference between reality and fiction are kind of the mark for those hats, aren't they? You know?
Yeah, remember, it's all fake news. It's all fake news.
It's goddamn real.
Harvey would definitely be one of those dudes sharing memes about like government conspiracies and stuff. So I was like, he totally would be wearing like a 2016 Make America Great Again hat.
Yeah, if there was like a flat earther hat, we would have that too.
That would have been better.
And I don't know if they have a logo though.
They should.
I'm gonna make those now. Flat earther.
Yeah.
We'll have to put them in movies for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Then we can get AJ Styles in the movie too.
Oh.
I'm totally down now. Yeah. And I like that you don't.
If you trick people into wearing them.
Yeah, right. I like that you don't really reference the hat within the movie. He just has it on, but like, you know, no one really talks about it. So it's just kind of there.
Yeah, it's just kind of there. It's kind of like
open for interpretation.
Yeah,
like a I don't even know. If somebody wore like a communist, like, you know, like a communist hat, like one of those Russian furry hats now, and they just wore it, and people would see it, they wouldn't really necessarily say anything. They'd just be like, oh, well, that's just like a relic, and someone decided to wear it, and, you know, and it's just kind of like, I guess it'd be the equivalent of something along those lines. Obviously not quite the same, but there's something along those lines, you know, because the movie takes place in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so interesting to be using something from now in the future because it's so impactful now, and it kind of makes you remember, like, it's going to mean less as years go on, and how it makes you think of what we're going to look like in the future, you know, what this point in time is. So it's kind of interesting to time travel like that in a movie.
Yeah. So I was also happy to hear James Balsamo's voice in the movie.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, his little like DJ spots were great.
The perfect voice for it. And and you're in the Lich, right? You're in his
I
movie,
am.
The
Yeah,
Lich.
me and Jenny actually are in that movie for like 2 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So how did that come about? Where did you guys meet?
I think like we were in a movie or two together, and then we met at Rock and Shock in the flesh, though, the convention, and then we did that. We did that outside somewhere in Worcester, and that was good. He had his filming gear there to like grab little cameos. You know, so yeah,
we were already in costume. We just came up with it like on the spot.
Yeah, I think that's how all James movies are put together.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which
it's like a string of cameos.
Which it's not a knock on James at all. I enjoy his movies.
No, not at all. It's fun. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see Troy and I in James Balsamo's Cool as Hell 2 coming up very soon.
Nice.
Yeah. So, did the movie that premiered, is that the final cut of the movie?
It's close to it. I mean, I could tweak like a little bit, but sometimes when you see it on the big screen, it's like sometimes things go on a little longer. You're like, oh, I could add a sound effect in there when somebody falls down. But yeah, I mean, it's close to the final cut. I mean,
when will everyone else be able to see the movie?
I'm going to have this version on my website, bostonfilmfamily.com, hopefully in a couple of days, and people can buy it there. If they're impatient or they just don't want to deal with the website, they can message me on Facebook. They can find us on Instagram or Facebook at Boston Undead, and they can message me, send me money on PayPal or whatever. But I'm going to set it up on the site too. And then, that's probably the quickest way to see it.
Mm-hmm. And when they do that, is it streaming on the site, or they buy the actual
it's a DVD? It'll be a DVD or Blu-ray that I'd have to mail to them.
Mm-hmm. You have any specials on it?
Not yet, but I am in the process of, hopefully for distribution at some point, is getting some interviews with like the cast. I just got one with Sarah, and now I'm gonna, over the course of the next 10 months or whatever, get some more, and then have a little something. Hopefully when it finds distribution, it'll be like an extended version.
Mm-hmm. Are you gonna play it at any festivals or try to get it in any festivals?
I hope so. Festivals are like, who knows, but I will definitely submit it.
Mm-hmm. So, Jenny, which would be your favorite costume in the movie? I know you said it was fun doing the wrestling ones.
Yeah, I think everyone else said that was their favorite, but I loved the Mother of Mercy costume because it like really kind of made the character, and I think it was the most a part of the script. And I mean, I said that when I was making it. I'm like, I will never get a chance to make a Virgin Mary wrestler costume probably again in my life, and I just wanted to enjoy every minute of it. Like, I think it's perfect. It was perfect. I've always done like Virgin Mary inspired fashion and art like since I was a kid for some reason. So it was perfect. I feel like that was like, I think that's probably one of my favorite things I've gotten to make ever. It was just ridiculous. I'll tell you something kind of mystical about that too. In 2016, before this even existed, I was riding the 66 bus to Harvard Square, and this woman was sitting next to me, and she just started talking to me for no reason. And she opens up her bag, and she was like, "What size shoe are you?" And I was like 6, 7, whatever. And she hands me these like red Victorian style boots that with like engraved filigree all over it. And she's like, "Take these." I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" And she goes, "I'm Magical Mary. That's what they call me." And she got off the bus. And then I finished the costume, and I'm like, holy shit, these are the boots for it. And yeah, I went on Mary the character after that. So I'm like, it was crazy.
Alex, what was your favorite memory of filming the movie Parts Unknown?
That's a hard one. Let me think. Actually, I have to say, I think one of my favorite memories was doing the ring scenes with William Dickoff and Brian Zane. That was a lot of fun. It was funny, I had my cane and it was, hitting and there's this part of the scene where, Brian Zane has my cane and he's pulling it and I'm pulling it. And that was a funny thing. And and the entire we did the wrestling scenes all in one day, and it was a long day with a lot of extras and the setting up the ring and all that. But it was probably one of the coolest experiences on set, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your favorite, Rick?
My favorite scene, or like my favorite moment.
I guess it'd be two different things. You could say both.
Guess.
Your favorite scene in the movie, and what's your favorite, memory of making it?
I think my favorite scene was probably the confrontation between Kitty and Mary out by like the trucks, like those like whatever, I don't know what you want to call the things that attach to like the semi trucks, and like they were like having their confrontation. It just, to me, I really like the music, and I thought it was really cool. Like I thought the glide cam shots were like really cool, like, coming together, and they have a very slow paced conversation where they accept like who they are. And I worked with the actresses a lot to, Sarah and Alexandra a lot to like really nail that down. So I was kind of happy that it came off the way that it does. And then, it leads to a very pivotal moment, in the film. And it was cool lighting, and it was like coyotes in the woods, and you could hear them go. You can't hear them in the movie because of the music and stuff, but they were like going crazy in like the woods. And it was like a kind of a cool moment. It just felt like something I was going to remember. And I was glad it came out good. As well. I guess like my favorite moment on set. Oh man, what's my favorite moment? I think like my favorite moment may have been the wrestling stuff too, just for like the fact, that it was just the realization of doing it, making it happen. Although it was a tough day. I mean, I was like one of the longest days of all time just to get everything.
Mm-hmm. Who made the holiness?
An effects artist, V Height, made it.
And, how hands-on were you in the design of it?
We, in the very beginning of it, I want to say almost a year prior, like she came up with some sketches, I gave her my inspirations, and then she kind of continued it. And then, by the time we got to set, it just kind of changed. But it's one of those things. But, it's, I guess I had a hand in it, but,
Mm-hmm. I love the poster art.
Yeah, thank you. That's really cool. That's one of it's exceptionally cool. I love the poster by Dennis Preston. That's some of his best work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, again, where's the website where people can find it?
In a couple days, it should be up for sale on my website, bostonfilmfamily.com. And if you can't find that for some reason, or you don't want to wait, you can find me on social media at Boston Undead, and I am on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and we have our fan pages and all that shit. And I will gladly, send you a DVD. We got PayPal. Yeah. We can do it that way. So that is how you can find us.
Definitely. Cool. Jenny, do you have a page people can find you?
Yeah, I mean, I have a Facebook page. It's just Jenny French Collection. My Instagram is Jenny French Collection. My costume stuff you can find through Boston Undead too.
All right, cool. And how about Alex?
Well, I got a fan page myself. It's Alex Hauck fan page, Hauck for the last name. Check me out. Anything and everything that I have done in the past and what I'm going to do in the future is always updated weekly on it.
Cool. I know we sold Troy on the movie, so I hope we sold some other people listening.
You got one person that's going to go see it anyway.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Good.
Yeah. I think that once he had the pink dildo was.
Yeah, that was
He was
amazing.
excited.
Yeah, that was.
And then what?
That was money.
Then you had the razors in, and he's the soul.
Oh yeah,
That's it, man. That should be the Punk album, just like a close up of that dildo.
I'll make a good poster, I think.
Yeah.
It would.
T-shirts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Toys.
A toy, yeah. Toy for kids.
Yeah.
All right, I'm calling Todd McFarlane on this one.
Want to thank all of you coming on. It's been a fun talk.
Yeah, it's been a
Good
good
to you.
time.
Good time.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Sophia Blacklear from Viral, and you are listening to Without Your Head.